Today, we're going to build your own personal toolkit for making sense of the wild, complex digital world we all live in. We're going to arm you with the same mental models and practical tricks that professional fact-checkers use every day to sniff out misinformation. So, let's dive right in. You know that feeling, right? You're just scrolling through your feed, and then bam, a headline hits you. It makes your blood boil, or maybe it makes you incredibly happy. And before you even know what you're doing, your thumb is hovering right over that share button. What is that? That split-second, gut-level reaction? That's exactly where we need to start.
Because see, the biggest barrier to spotting bad information isn't a lack of fancy software. It's our own brains. We are hardwired to react fast, especially to stuff that triggers those big emotions like anger, fear, or even outrage. And in the online world, that wiring can really get us into trouble.
There's actually a name for this phenomenon: the disinhibition effect. Basically, the speed and the feeling of anonymity you get online make it super easy to switch off that slow, careful, analytical part of our brain. Instead, we start relying on those fast, intuitive gut feelings. And that's when our natural skepticism goes out the window, making us perfect targets for sharing things that aren't true.
Okay, so if our brains are wired to go 100 miles an hour, how do we fight back? Well, we need to install a cognitive brake pedal. We need a simple, powerful tool that can interrupt that automatic emotional reaction and just give our critical thinking a second to actually wake up and get in the game. And that tool is a simple 4-letter word: HALT. HALT is just a super easy mental checklist. First, H, just hold on, pause for a second before you do anything. Then, analyze the source. Like, who is actually telling you this? Next, L, locate other sources. Is anyone credible, saying the same thing? And finally, T, trace the information back to where it originally came from. And let's break down why each of these steps is so important. Hold on, its only job is to break that mindless share reflex. Analyze forces you to ask about credibility. Locate is brilliant because it uses consensus as a proxy for truth. If lots of reliable people are saying it, it's a good sign. And trace, this one is huge. It protects you from one of the sneakiest tricks in the book, taking true information and twisting it by ripping it out of context.
All right, so you've slammed on the brakes with HALT. What's next? This is where we learn a secret from the pros. Research from Stanford has shown that professional fact-checkers look at information completely differently than most of us. They don't read vertically, they read laterally. And here's the game changer. Most of us read vertically. We land on a website, we stay there, and we try to figure out if it's trustworthy by looking at its fancy design or what it says on its About Us page. Fact-checkers, they do the exact opposite. The moment they land on an unfamiliar site, they leave it. They open up new browser tabs and they start Googling the source itself. They're asking, what does the rest of the internet say about this website? If you want an easy way to put lateral reading into practice, there's another great little acronym for it: SIFT. First, S, stop, just like with HALT. I, investigate the source. F, find better coverage. See who else is talking about this. And T, trace the claims back to the original context. You can see it's kind of like a cousin to HALT, but it's specifically designed for that active multi-tab investigation.
Okay, time to level up. We've talked about personal habits. Now let's get into the heavy-duty tools, the more rigorous, structured frameworks that academics and journalists use to make sure their work is rock solid.
A classic from the academic world is the CRAAP test. And yeah, you heard that name right. It's an amazing checklist for really digging into any source. You look at its currency. Is this info still timely? Its relevance. Is it actually important to what you need? Authority. Who is the person or group behind this? Accuracy. Can you verify the information? And maybe the most important one, purpose. Why does this exist? Is it here to inform you, to persuade you, or to sell you something? And what's really cool is you can actually turn this into a numbers game. You can score each of those 5 areas on a scale of 1 to 10. This takes a vague feeling about a source and makes it concrete. And it gives you a clear bottom line. If something scores below 30, that's a massive red flag. It's a clear signal to be super careful or maybe just walk away entirely. Now, in the world of journalism, things have to adapt. For big, complex stories, you have the magazine model. This is the gold standard. You have an independent fact checker who goes through every single claim line by line. But for the daily news cycle, that's just too slow. So you have the newspaper model, which is much faster and relies on the author and their editor to do the checking. It just goes to show you, context is everything. So far, we've pretty much only talked about words.
But what happens when the information, or the misinformation, isn't in the text, but in the photo or the video itself? In an age of easy fakes and manipulations, we need a special set of forensic tools for what we see. This is where you get to be a bit of a digital detective. You can do a reverse image search on Google or TinEye to see if that photo has shown up anywhere else before, maybe in a totally different context. You can use Google Maps and Street View to verify if the location is what it claims to be. You can zoom in and look for clues, street signs, architecture, license plates. You can even inspect a file's metadata to find hidden info about when and where it was taken. And these aren't just clever party tricks. This is all part of a real professional discipline called OSINT. That stands for Open Source Intelligence. It's the entire practice of gathering and analyzing publicly available data to get a clear, verifiable picture of what's going on. When you do this stuff, you're basically acting as your own intelligence analyst. So look how far we've come. We started inside our own minds, with our own psychology, and we've worked our way up to professional-grade techniques. Now let's pull it all together and see how these tools can build a fortress of factuality, not just for us as individuals, but for society as a whole. What's so fascinating is that these very same principles can be used on a massive scale. Big institutions use a strategy called pre-bunking. Think of it like a vaccine against lies. The idea is to proactively go out and educate the public on a topic, explaining the real facts and warning them about the misleading tactics they might see, all before the wave of misinformation actually hits. So here you have it, your own complete verification toolkit. HALT is your brain's emergency brake for emotional reactions. SIFT is your active strategy for investigating like a pro. CRAAP is your deep dive framework for judging a source's quality. And OSINT gives you the forensic tools for pictures and videos. Each one is a different layer of defense.
And really, if you only remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Figuring out what's true is not a one-and-done deal. It's not about finding one perfect magical source. Factuality is the result of a process, a continuous, active process of checking claims against different sources, understanding the context, and looking for a general consensus among people who know what they're talking about. Look, the goal here isn't to have all the answers in your head. Nobody does. The real goal is to get very, very good at asking the right questions. The power isn't in knowing everything. It's in knowing how to question things effectively. So I'll just leave you with this. The next time you see that headline that you just can't resist, what's the first question you're going to ask?